appreciation than it is really having to take on any tough decisions. So we'll move right along. At this time, I'm going to ask everyone, those of you that have a copy of the agenda, to turn your attention to item number 3. Item number 3 on our agenda is a moment of silence to return favor. And at this time, let us do so, please. Amen. At this time, I'll ask everybody to stand and face our flag. And tonight we will be led by Councilman Hayes in our Pledge of Allegiance. Jimmy?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll move on now to item number 5. And tonight I have the honor of bestowing on some worthy people the presentation of the Mayor's Award. And at this time, we will start off with item number A. Item number A is our Wilkesboro Fire Department reclassification. And I'm going to relinquish the floor at this time to our Town Manager, Ken Nolan.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. And we are here tonight to celebrate a number of activities. And the first one is our fire department. And I'd like to kind of give a little history of where we come from and to where we are at tonight with this recognition. So back in, I believe it's 2009, one of our firemen, Bud Molnar, writes grants for us, wrote a grant, and we received a grant to hire 3 full-time firemen. The town council, we've been wrestling with how to handle the fire department, just with kind of what's changing in our society of the loss of volunteers. People work farther away, they can't get off their jobs, and so we're trying to figure out how we're going to keep this fire department going. We got that grant for 3 full-time officers or firemen. It was very exciting, but the city council said, listen, if we're going to have 3 full-time firemen, I think we need a full-time chief. So we hired a chief. We hired a gentleman named Lee Sudia. Lee Sudia was hired in 2010. And so Lee then hired the first 3 full-time employees with us. So at that point, we had 4 full-time firemen and then a lot of volunteers, probably 25 plus, I'd say at the time. And a lot of those volunteers had a lot of gray hair. Still do, I think. I've noticed a few back here. So, and so we're struggling with having young guys come in to replace it, and we've got some young guys back here, which is exciting as well now today. But long story short, we were in a transition period. Lee went out and he got another grant for us. He got a grant for over $1 million to do volunteer recruitment and training and so forth to try to pump up the volunteer side of our department. Lee did not stay long after that, and we then hired our current fire chief, Chief Smithy. Chief Smithy's job was to implement that fire grant. And when you get a lot of money from the federal government, it sounds great, but it's not that easy. And he learned how hard it is to spend that money, because anytime you get money in a grant, there's lots of strings attached to it. And of course, we had ideas of how to use it a little bit differently than what the grant wrote. But ultimately, we were able to spend those dollars, improve our fire department through lots of training and the increase in volunteers. And the chief may want to talk about some of the things we do, how we bring our part-timers in now. But anyway, I think it was in 2012, at that point, I was at a Christmas party. It could have been in 2011, but I thought it was 12. I was at the fire department's Christmas party, and they recognized over 20 firemen who had firefighter 1 or firefighter 2 status. And I was excited to hear that, because when we started this process, we didn't have anybody that had that status. Now, we have lots of men that are trained, and if you pull all their years together, they certainly have the qualifications of it, but we didn't have those those statistics on it. So now we've got the statistics too. We're sitting here now. We've got guys that's got those got that recognition. So we're just continually moving forward in this department. Also, during these next several years after that, Jason has done a great job keeping it going, growing our volunteer part-time base. We've transitioned from some firemen come and go, and so some of our full-timers have come, left. The positions that we hired, the full-time guys, do a little bit different stuff today than they did when we first hired them as we've evolved as a department. And the city council has been very active in making sure we had equipment. And so since that period of time, we've bought a couple large apparatuses and done other work. And then on the other side, in our utility system, we've done a lot of water improvements. And a fire department is only as good as the water they get out of that fire hydrant. So the two go hand in hand. So here we are tonight. We're celebrating an achievement of this fire department. When we started this process, we were considered a level 5 department. And departments go from a 9 to a 1. 1 being I guess the most qualified, and the 9 being the least. And we were right in the middle at a 5. Very good position to be in. That's probably the sweet spot for most places around the state of North Carolina. But we've done so much work, we wanted to do better. We got re-rated very recently, and they bumped us from a 5 to a 3. And what that means is there's savings for our businesses, primarily. There's some savings for our residents, but it also just means our fire department itself is better equipped to provide protection to our community, which is really what it's about. It's those guys being ready and getting to the scene, doing it professionally, meeting standards, and getting the job done when it's needed. So I commend them for getting from that 5 to a 3. I would say that 3, my understanding in North Carolina, that puts you in the top 6% of departments statewide. So it's a significant achievement for these guys to have tonight. So I'm very proud of them in doing that. I don't know of anybody in our immediate area that's a 2 or a 1. They're out there, but not right around us. A 3 is really about where it's at. And now, one thing I would say is there is a sweet spot for everybody. I think we have found ours. I know those guys will continue to strive, and they might get us to a 2 one day, or even a 1, who knows. A lot of that has to do with, again, your water system, your equipment, your manpower, a lot of other things around you. So, but I am proud of what they've done today, and so what we'd like to do now is bring Jason forward. So Jason, if we can get you to come up here, in your honor. And I think I guess all of our fire, why don't you all come up here, and then I'd like to get our officers up here right front. So officers right up front with the chief, the rest of you kind of come up here and support. This doesn't happen much, and you guys have done a great job. So we've got 2 things we want to give tonight. One is for the department as a whole. Yeah, bring him up. Bring him up.
How about first to our department, and Chief, if you'd like to have your staff to stand around you and myself and Mr. Nolan.
So what we have here is this evening we have taken the official notice that we got from the Department of Insurance, and we have engraved it onto a plaque because we're very proud of it and we want to show it off at the fire department. So we have that here tonight. So we're really giving it to Jason but presenting it to the department. So we're very proud of that.
Congratulations. This was an achievement that, as our town manager said, has been a long time in coming. And we appreciate all the hard work, initiative that went into this. And I'm glad that the town council financially supported your efforts.
Certainly glad they did too.
So, congratulations to all of you.
That's right.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, so if we could keep Jason, up. I'm going to stay out of the photographer's way. All right, very good. And now this is for Jason individually.
And I'll just read what the plaque says. In acknowledgement of continued leadership and guidance, Chief Jason Smithy is hereby honored for his efforts which have culminated in obtaining a Level 3 rating for the town of Wilkesboro Fire Department. Congratulations, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Now, I want to say, go ahead.
Yeah, let's do that.
Now, I want to say to you guys what this means. Like Ken said a few minutes ago, we're the top 6% of the country. I'm sorry, the state. That's a big deal to me. And I didn't make it all happen. Every one of y'all made it happen. So I appreciate your effort, getting out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, which hopefully ain't that often, but it happens. And all the times you come to training, signed up for work. We try to have a good time and have fun, but this is what it all boils down to. So thank you a whole lot for all of you.
So hang around, fellas. We got a couple more awards to give, and then we'll just hang around and enjoy some fun times.
Congratulations, guys. Good to see you. Thank you, Chief. That's a job well done. Thank you, Chief. Good job.
Good job, Chief.
Thank you.
Take your spare.
No, I'm going to hand it to Garris. All right, we'll move on now to item number B, under agenda item number 5. And this time, I'm going to ask our police chief, Craig Garris, to come forward. We have another presentation we want to make tonight.
Thank you, Your Honor. We are here tonight. The mayor, he gave me a call. He heard about an incident that we had in town. It's been a few weeks ago now. And this was something that I had not heard of, and probably very, very rare occurrence anywhere in the country. But on a Saturday, we had an incident where a man called 911, and he was on 421 going north, about 10 miles out of town. And he stated that the car that he was in, he was alone in the car, would not slow down. He was at 65 miles an hour. No matter what he did, it just wouldn't slow down. He's on the brakes. He can't get it to shift out of gear, using an emergency brake. He's doing everything in the world, and the car just keeps going, keeps going. And so dispatch communicated with, at the time it was Lieutenant Moore was our supervisor at that time, and Sergeant Wells was working as well. And Sergeant Wells was able to get this location from dispatch on where they were, and the guy, as he approached town, the car actually increased in speed to 72 miles an hour, and he couldn't get it to slow at all. So Moore realized we've got a missile coming into 421 there at the light at 421 Business, and we need to stop this car if there's any way possible. So how are you going to do that? Well, what they did, and they thought very fast, and Moore called Wells up, and if there was any way we could intercept this vehicle to take his patrol vehicle, which is an Explorer, which is a little more substantial vehicle than most cars. And the timing worked out just right where he identified this, he saw the vehicle, he identified that's got to be it. He pulled up beside the guy to confirm this, was trying to get him, can you pull over, can you pull over? And the guy, no. So he positioned his vehicle in front of the Explorer, and there was a car involved in the middle of this. And so they had to get around this other car, and he braked, and used his vehicle to brake this other car to a stop. And they got it stopped just prior to the traffic light at 421 Business there behind Cagney's going north. So in my opinion, people were saved from some injuries, if not worse. It would have been a calamity if this didn't occur. And the mayor, I've talked to him about it. We did an internal commendation, and I want to thank the mayor and the council for their consideration for tonight to acknowledge the work of Sergeant Wells and Lieutenant Moore on that day. And I will turn the mic over to the mayor. If you will come on up, Lieutenant Moore and Sergeant Wells.
Well, I'm very grateful for the outcome of what could have been a tragic situation, as Chief Garris just described. It was well coordinated and orchestrated, and I thought out of appreciation for a job well done, it would only be fitting to present to each one of you this plaque of appreciation. So at this time, let me read this. A certificate of commendation. The Wilkesboro Town Council acknowledges that your actions on January the 24th, 2019 helped to prevent serious injury to the motoring public. The Town Council hereby declares that these actions warrant recognition of distinguished service to Lieutenant Rocky Moore. Lieutenant, if you'll take that. Yes, sir. Thank you. And also to Sergeant Nathan Wills. Nathan. So, gentlemen, this is just another example of a shining star being reflected on our Wilkesboro PD, and all I can say is a job well done. So thank you very much. Gene, just have a seat at the table, you and Peggy, please. Well, I thought it would only be befitting to acknowledge the appreciation that Gene Fell and his supporting wife, Peggy, have had on this community. Gene's accomplishments as the hospital CEO, president and CEO, have been an outstanding achievement. Gene was brought in 2008, and at that time, I'll be very blunt in saying that the financial status of the hospital was in a dire situation, and it needed the input of a seasoned veteran who could turn their hospital around in a relatively short period of time. It went from having a 5-day cash on hand to over 100-day cash on hand, and I think that in itself was an achievement all to itself. However, during the course of his tenure and the capacity that he has held at Wilkes Regional Hospital and Wilkes Medical Center, his achievements are just mind-boggling to me. I asked the question, Gene, from Tammy Love, if she would prepare me with a list of achievements during your tenure, and another page. But I'm going to read off some of these because they are quite impressive. In addition to how you had a financial turnaround as you did, you doubled the size of the ER room with a $17 million building project in 2013. You started the Wilkes Physician Network in 2008. It grew from 14 clinics starting in 2008 through 2015 with 42 providers in the network, and that was through 2017. In 2011, you added the Heart Center. In 2010, you opened the Urgent Care Clinic in West Park. In 2015, you opened a family medical clinic in Rock Creek. In 2013, you opened the Wound Healing Center with a hyperbaric chambers. And then in 2015, you expanded the dialysis center to 22 chairs. In 2013, the hospital became chest pain accredited, and that was the first time in the hospital's history. You went on to achieve the highest employee morale scores for 4 consecutive years. And that was the highest scores in the history of the hospital. And they reached a score of 88%, and you were also able to maintain that for 4 consecutive years. In 2012, the Professional Research Consultants awarded Wilkes Regional Hospital with the #1 ranking for your laboratory and delivery, or your labor and delivery in the birthing center in the nation. And Wilkes was among 220 birthing centers in the country being rated by their parents. Wilkes has maintained a 97% satisfaction rate for 12 consecutive months. In 2013 and 2015, Wilkes Regional Hospital's Women's Choice Award for Emergency Room Services at the hospital. In 2015, 16, and 17, the hospital received Becker's Hospital Review in North Carolina named Wilkes Medical Center the 5th cleanest hospital, and that was 3 consecutive years. In 2011, 2012, the Joint Commission for Top Performance for Quality was awarded to Wilkes Regional Hospital. And in 2015 and 16, the U.S. News and World Report named the skilled nursing facility at Wilkes as the best nursing home facility with a 5-star rating, and that was for 2 consecutive years. That's just unparalleled. And the accolades, Gene, in itself are major achievements, but I think your commitment in giving back to the community as a civic servant is equally, and I'd like just to name some of the boards you have volunteered to serve on, and they include the Wilkes Community Board of Trustees, the Wilkes Chamber of Commerce Board, the Wilkes Medical Center Foundation Board. 2015, you once again, not only being a member of the Wilkes Chamber of Commerce, but you are also the chair of that board. You led the Wilkes County March of Dimes, March for Babies, as the chair for the years 2014 and 15 and 18. And in the 2018 campaign, it was the most successful in Wilkes history. Again, in 2015, the Wilkes Regional Medical Love Light Tree was dedicated to Gene and his wife by the Hospital Auxiliary for his dedication and service to the hospital and his community. Gene is an active member of a Wilkes Rotary Club, where he is a Paul Harris Fellow. And at the state level, Gene has served on the North Carolina Hospital Association Policy Development Committee. And that was from 2014 through 2016. Gene and his wife Peggy have been married for 43 years. You have 2 children, and I think you're getting ready to move and relocate so you can be closer to them and to your grandchildren. So, and with all that said, Gene was a veteran of the United States Air Force. So you have had a storied career in your life. And that's the reason you're here tonight, is to let the general public know how much you have contributed to this community that you lived and worked in, but also for us to, as a Wilkesboro Town Council, to show our appreciation for a job well done. So if both of you will come forward, I'd like to present you a small token of the Town Council's appreciation for what you have achieved and what you have given back to this community, that you have been faithful servants. So if you'll come up, Peggy, if you'll stand on one side and I'll stand on the other. Okay. Let me just read to you what this inscription on the plaque has to say. Presented to Gene Fell. Through your leadership, Wilkes Regional Medical Center has emerged as a first-class medical facility serving the citizens of Wilkes County from 2008 to 2019. This February the 4th of 2019. This is a key to the city, mounted to a plaque of appreciation. Congratulations.
Thank you. This is a special place. You know, I just want to take a minute. Hey, could you hold that? Let me point out some folks behind these cameras and phones back here. I'll start in the back. Lori back here, my executive assistant for the last few years. She made sure I was in the right place at the right time. And what a special folks I've had behind me. Tammy Love, everybody in Wilkes County knows Tammy Love. And what an incredible job Tammy has done. Vanya Baker, oh my goodness, I just can't say enough about Vanya and Mark, how they were just the pillars of making these things happen we talked about. But I just want to say something here, and I want to thank all of you for this. But, you know, Peggy can tell you, my career path has taken us many places. You know, I've had the honor and privilege of, I went dove hunting with Governor Ann Richards. She is one of the funniest ladies you've ever met. I don't know if you've heard that name, but of Texas. I was running a hospital out in Texas and did that. I've sat and talked to Senator Mitch McConnell, and I think about all the things that and accomplishments and recognitions that I've had. And I know when we go to my den, other than the Miami Dolphins stuff in my den, there's all these plaques and recognitions and thank yous. But I gotta tell you this. This one right here goes above every recognition I've ever had, and I've got quite a few. This means so much to me, Marion Score. I can't even begin to tell you what this means to me. I just have to tell you, you know, when I first arrived here, one of the very first people I met was Leonard Herring. One of the very first people I met was Leonard Herring. And I was so impressed that a man that had accomplished so much in a leadership position that was extraordinary was so down to earth and so personable, so friendly and so warm, and had what I love, an incredible sense of humor. And we laughed and we talked. And that was nearly 11 years ago. And then I began to learn that's Wilkes County. That's Wilkes County. Good, hardworking, honest people. that give everything they can for their fellow Wilkes County folks, for their jobs, their work, their church, their community. And so for me, it was an honor to be a part of that, because I felt like I was Wilkes County. We were welcomed as if we were born and raised here. And so when I got involved with one thing, they'd say, well, Gene, have you been over here to this? And I go to that thing. And then I end up chairing it after a while. But I got to tell you, I have a love and we have a passion for Wilkes County that is undying. This is a place you have to have lived somewhere else to really appreciate, I think, what we have in Wilkes County. And it's the people. These are the warmest, kindest, hardest working, most caring people I've ever been associated with. And the folks in the back there I've worked shoulder to shoulder with, and many of you, I know I've worked with you in various areas, and I think, you know, and I think those that know me know this, that things don't happen by accident. I really don't think they happen by accident. And I believe that we were sent here in this time period on a mission from God, just a little timetable to be with you and you with us. But this place and you and these people and this county has made a mark on our lives. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate that. There's something special about Wilkes County. When I was selling CDs at that music tent at Merlefest, I'd say there's something special about Wilkes County. But I just want to tell you, this means more to me than I can even share with you. This right here, I'm going to be showing my great-grandkids, God willing, because this does mean a lot to me. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you. And I appreciate everything you've done for Peggy and I over these nearly 11 years. But thank you very much. Maybe you need to come closer. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Gary. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate you. Make sure I get everybody here.
All right, at this time, we'll just take a short recess. And Gene, we have, Peggy, we have some refreshments in the back. If you would like to stay and participate, please do so. You can go ahead and leave, but we'd love for you to stay and let the council have an opportunity to shake your hand and voice their own appreciation for a job well done in this community. So we'll stand in recess for 15 minutes. This time we will reconvene and move forward with our agenda. So at this time, we will now move on to item number 9, the introduction of our new wellness nurse. Bob, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. So now that we've all had some cookies, we'll talk about our wellness program. I like the natural dovetail of this evening, because this whole project that we're starting to walk down with the introduction of an on-site nurse was actually a culmination of a call from Gene. Gene used to help us in our health plan by servicing our blood draw annually and allowing the hospital folks to do that and run the panels and distribute them to local doctors and what have you. When they transitioned management to Wake Forest, their ability to do that kind of went away, and Gene offered this as a potential avenue, right? So I ended up at a lunch and learned about the program, and here we are. And it's a very new
the an employee size base that we have wouldn't necessarily facilitate someone to be on site all that often. But truth be told, this project or this program is in my eyes, and the way we anticipate it working, is that might be 5% of what Katie Lynn does in her time with us. Ideally, I see it, and as it's been explained to you as a board and now introduced to our citizens, is it's a true wellness piece. I've had conversations with department heads who are trying to figure out yoga schedules for their unknowing employees and trying to come up with different ways to name yoga so their employees don't know they're doing yoga. We're talking about meditation, we're talking about nutrition, we're talking about chronic disease management, how to best handle your diabetes, your medications, your all of these type of things that in today's day and times are a necessity. And for myself or anyone else on staff are untouchable. The beauty of this, in my mind, is Katie Lynn is very qualified, and she has a passion for all of these things that we're talking about. And it allows the board, it allows staff to identify those areas in the health plan that may not be performing as efficiently as we would like them, and to kind of set a course for her to navigate, so to speak, because she will have the availability to have medical records and have conversations that I, as staff, am unable to have because of HIPAA regulations. So I think our staff is truly going to find her as an individual resource. I think our department heads are going to find her as a collective resource for their group and their culture. And I think the town as a whole is really going to grow and benefit from the different ways that we'll be able to utilize her skill set. So with that, I set a very high expectation for Katie Lynn Buchanan.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to meet everybody. A quick little background. I've just moved back home, back to North Carolina from California. And it's funny, as I'm sitting here, it occurred to me that in California, I have been trying to promote this sort of activity, and it didn't happen, and I came back to Wilkesboro, North Carolina, and it's happening. So that's pretty exciting. And I think this is a very innovative program, and we can really do a lot. So I believe in meeting people where they are and seeing where we can go from there. So I'm very hopeful that this is going to benefit the town. I'm very hopeful that people are going to be responsive and feel the benefits. And yeah, just from the people I've met, I think this is going to be a really easy transition for me because everyone's been so wonderful. And I just hope that they respond and we make this a good thing for us collectively. I believe in one thing, and that is that small things swing big doors. So I'm very open to baby steps and taking time and seeing where we need to go to make this a really great program. I would welcome any feedback from anyone and any ideas that you think would make this program really accessible. I appreciate your help. I appreciate the welcome I've gotten, and I'm very excited to get started.
So any questions or comments for Katie? And Bob, would you move the slide the mic over a little bit?
I have a question.
Yes, Gary.
We have an on-site office, and where would that office be?
So in my eyes, the way the program is going to function is Katie's going to be very fluid. She's going to spend time out in department. Now that said, she will have a home base here, which would allow for her to store materials and supplies and make copies and things like that. But ideally, if she's in town hall, it would be for a small group or an individual type setting. We probably would drop her in a conference room or.
I mean, she needs a private setting to
Yes.
protect the patients.
Absolutely, yeah. So we'll have some be out in our departments dealing with our employees face to face.
We should be using an appointment schedule for just in a walk-in situation.
So at this point, we're kind of facilitating how we're gonna allow for both, quite honestly, because I think it is a great benefit to have some standing appointments if you have the ability to garner a relationship with folks and they know we're going to have this conversation at this time, but there also needs to be some fluidity. If someone comes in and needs a strep test or something like that, which as a registered nurse she'd be able to handle. So we're still kind of working through the nuts and bolts, and quite honestly, I think there'll be a bit of a trial period, right? We'll have, we'll try something for a couple months and meet and see what's good and what needs to get changed and continue to refine as we go.
Great, good to have you. I think you're going to be pretty busy.
If I could just add on to that, so I will be here Tuesdays, 7 to 1. That's what we're working with right now. And that is to kind of facilitate a relationship with a lot with the employees that do shifts that get on and off at 7, and then also throughout the day. So I'll be here physically on Tuesdays, but I'll be available via phone and email throughout the week. So the way I envision it is a lot of the coaching and relationships that are going to happen may be over the phone as well. So that will always be an option. There's also a Facebook page that will be linked to our Town Wilkesboro page, and that will be open discussion as well for questions that aren't so private.
Other questions? Russ, you have a question?
I guess, does this extend to family members of employees?
I don't know. Let's ask Bob that.
Sure. So it would by extension be included into those under our health plan. We will be doing some things through the fire department, and obviously if you're volunteer fire are not part of your health role, but they would be included in some of those activities as well.
Okay. Anything else?
We hope you will be very busy.
That's the plan.
Right. Jim, anything you'd like to say?
No, sure.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome aboard, and we certainly, as Gary said, look forward to putting you to good use. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item number 10, and at this time we have a public hearing to give consideration to a proposed incentive agreement. Leanne, if you and Rob.
That's oversight consent agenda.
Oh, yeah, I'll go back to that. I'm glad you said that. Thank you. Come forward, please. Robin, would you like to join Leanne?
Well, you were going some way.
Go ahead.
For allowing us to be here tonight to present a project to you. It's Two Boroughs Brewery, and that is Seth Cone, who is here with us tonight, in addition to Grayson Cone and Trey Church that are getting this off of the ground. So Seth is in the audience tonight. If you have any questions for him, I'm sure he'd be glad to help us out with anything that you need today that I might not be able to answer. The location, I think you all are familiar because it's the project that you have already considered in other ways earlier over the last few months, but it is 111 East Main Street, which is the historic Ferguson building. The business will be a combination of a brewery and a restaurant. One of the things that my experience in doing research also is that a brewery is a manufacturing process. They have an ASICS code, a North American Industry Classification Code, that is manufacturing. And so in bringing this project to you, I just wanted to point out a few items that, as an economic development professional, these are some of the things that I think are important about a brewery. And that is that craft breweries are a manufacturing process, as we have said, and they have the potential to actually grow into a need for a modeling facility in the future, as well as when they outgrow their space and the amount barley, rye fruits that they experiment with to get different flavors. And then the grain mash can actually be sold back as feed for livestock. So we appreciate and welcome that opportunity in our county because we are such an important agriculture industry here. And also, craft breweries can be great to actually help with travel and tourism. Many people search out areas and they're looking at maps online, which there's associations that Two Burrows Brewery will get to be a part of that will help people as we're traveling around North Carolina identify our county, our town, Wilkesboro, as a location where there is a craft brewery that they will want to come to, as well as other craft breweries in the area. And so it is a good experience for those that are looking for that opportunity. We have, I know there's another brewery that's already started, and there's probably more to come, and if we do that, I think more breweries actually create synergy, because that way the tourism and the travel, they want to stop at more than one location, and the different owners of the craft breweries can actually work together to create events, learn from each other, share ideas, and just promote the knowledge that they have about the craft brewery industry. So I think that's a good thing, and they tend to encourage each other and see each other as part of a group that are trying to accomplish a new thing. Breweries also, I think, have the ability to attract a workforce that supports innovation and technology. This is an entrepreneurship type business, and it's very innovative to come up with these different flavors and to try different recipes. But beyond that, I think that it's a place where people enjoy just maybe hanging out and meeting others and learning from each other and talking about different technologies. So I think that's something that we want to see promoted in our area. When we look at the investment that Two Burrows Brewery is looking to make, it's a combination of real and personal property. They have recently identified somewhere around $319,645, which I'm sure that number's probably going up since they actually are adding 15 tanks instead of 5 or 15 barrels. But one of the things that we have discussed is maybe just looking at this as a manufacturing operations, that it might be good to incentivize with a tax grant this operation without the pizza equipment. So without the pizza equipment, we're looking at $303,645 as being estimated at the beginning of this project. Jobs, we know there's at least 3 full-time jobs, probably more, that will start out in this company and then grow to 15 or 20 jobs. That will be a combination of full-time and part-time positions. The part-time will ramp up as the operation gets off the ground and grows. And usually, someone in a position, probably an hourly position, would probably make between $15 and $16 an hour with their base plus tips in this type of position. So at this point, I'd like to call your attention to, in your packet, you should have some calculations for a grant. And what you'll find is it is broken out in personal property and real property. So the total, based on that $303,645 investment, if we look at it as a 3-year grant at 70%, the taxes that would be created from that investment by them improving that property and buying personal property would be $4,008.11. That's an estimate over 3 years. If there were a grant at 70% on year 1, year 2, year 3, that would total $2,805.68. And I want to call to your attention that last line, that over those 3 years, the total revenue, you would still collect $1,202.43 from Two Burrows Brewery. So a tax grant is always, the company pays them their taxes, assuming they've invested the amount of equipment, and you can see that they're growing and doing as they said they were going to do, then they pay in their taxes, year, that 70% would be available to them, but you're still making tax income from that business growing in your town each year. So I think that's very important to realize, and for our public to realize that it's not money that we're giving them, that they're not actually creating new tax investments in our town. So at this time, I would ask for your consideration for a 3-year grant at 70%, but I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have, and if there's something that, again, that Seth can answer that I can't, I'm sure he would be glad to help you with any questions you have.
Okay. Since this is a public hearing, I'm going to officially open the public hearing, and I'll ask the town council if they have any questions for Leanne or for Seth at this time. Seth, anything you'd like to bring before the town council that Leanne hasn't touched on? Right, okay. Since this is public comments, at this time I want to ask the audience if anyone has an opinion that they would like for us to hear, and if so, at this time, would you raise your hand so I can give you the floor so you can address the town council? Okay, in the absence of which, I'm going to close the public hearing, and at this time, ask the town council if they are satisfied with the incentive that has been proposed, or would they like to make any modifications to it?
Question, please.
Yes.
The numbers you presented for the incentive were based on 70%. And I'm just having a hard time doing the calculation right now, but what would that number be if we added 10% more to that? What would another increase of 10% be?
At 80%?
Yeah.
At 80%, the 3-year grant would be $3,206.49, and you still would be receiving around $800 in tax revenue during that time.
So that increase of 10% would be roughly $400 more.
Yes.
For the total of the 3 years.
Okay.
That's my only question. Thank you.
All right. At this time, I will call the question. If somebody would like to offer, a motion to approve or to amend.
I'd like to make the motion that we amend it to 80% versus the 70. And that calculation is $3,206 based on the 3-year plan. I'd like to make the motion we approve the 3-year incentive grant program
At 80%.
at 80%.
Okay, any further questions? All right, we have a amended motion to increase the percent from 70 to 80%. I think this was proposed as a show of good faith in our support for what the Combe family is doing to bring new businesses and, more importantly, to bring people to our downtown. And we are very grateful for that initiative that you're taking. So at this time, all those in favor with the motion on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. Like sign opposed. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. I jumped over several items inadvertently in my haste to move along the agenda. We'll go back to the next item on the agenda, which I overlooked, and that's item number 7, conflict of interest statement. John?
Yes, members of the council are reminded of their duty to avoid either actual conflicts of interest or the appearance of conflicts of interest. If any council member is aware of, present of any conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest, please indicate that to me. Or if you become aware of such a conflict during the remainder of this meeting, please signify that.
Does anyone have any known conflicts that they would like to voluntarily admit to? Okay, in the absence of which, we will move on then to our consent agenda. And Ken, would you like to go over our consent agenda for us, please?
I'd be glad to, Your Honor. Note to the public, the consent agenda is an opportunity for council to make one motion for a lot of routine measures that are on the agenda just to speed up the time and process. Tonight on our consent agenda, we have item A, which is the minutes of the January 7th meeting. Item B, which is the setting of the filing fees for the upcoming election, and those are to be set at $50 for the two council seats and $84 for the mayor's seat. Item C is a resolution to reduce the speed limit on South Spruce Street. That's a section of Spruce Street between Corporation and James Street, and that new speed limit would be 20 miles per hour if council votes for that. And item D will be the appointment of Leanne Nixon to a vacant seat on the Tourism Development Authority, vacated by the resignation of Bill Meyer. Bill Meyer is was a ranger at Stone Mountain State Park, and he just couldn't make the meetings. So he's asked to vacate the seat. This would fill out the term that expires on June 30, 2019, at which time the council could choose to vote Ms. Nixon into a full 3-year term.
Okay, 4 items on the consent agenda, as elaborated on by our town manager. At this time, I will ask the question of the council, of any of those 4 items, would you like to pull one off for further deliberation on? Okay. In the absence of which, at this time, I will receive a motion.
So moved.
Motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Like sign opposed. Okay, we'll move on to other business. And Ken, do you have any other business?
I only have one item, Your Honor, and that is that the council was able to get done an extra bit of work this morning in our work session, and so there will be no need for a work session tomorrow evening. So we'll be canceling that scheduled meeting.
All right. Chief, you have any other business? All right. Jason? Jim? John? John has no other business. Bob, you have any other business?
No, thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll move on from other business to committee reports. Any committee reports from our council tonight? Okay, we'll move on then to public comments. Anyone in the audience would like to volunteer any public comments at this time? Okay, in the absence of which, we will forego the closed session and move to adjournment. If someone will favor me with a motion to adjourn. So moved. Councilman Fareed. All those in favor with a motion to adjourn signify by saying aye. Aye. Like sign opposed. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and participating in our meeting.